A'udhu billahi minash shaitanir rajeem. Bismillah ar-Rahman ar-Rahim. So today I wanted to make a video about sociopathic parents and the cascade of consequences. So one of the worst things about having a sociopathic parent or a narcissistic parent is that you encounter the narcissist very early in life. So your whole childhood, your whole like basic personality development, your developmental history all occurs as a bondsman or as someone in bondage to this narcissistic or sociopathic parent. They foster codependence in you. They make you a codependent person because basically a narcissistic person, their only way of relating to anyone is fostering codependence in them. That's how they relate to that person. They enslave you. They make you their bondsman or bondswoman, right? So you grow up in this basically being a slave and having a mentality of a slave. But it's worse than that. Not only do they make you into their slave, but they set themselves up as these all providers and paragons of virtue, which they're definitely not. And so it's not only an enslavement in terms of power, it's also like you tend to idealize them and hold them in this kind of idealistic way, which makes it really difficult to see them for who they really are, right? And going back to this idea of cascade of consequences, right? So if you have a narcissistic parent, depending on how long their control lasts, so for me it was like I was 2 years old noticing all these dynamics. By 4 or 5 my mom was telling me about them. By 10 years old, I was very mistrusting of my dad. By 15 years old, I was already trying to make plans to get the hell out of there. By 20 years old, I was very clear like that I wasn't crazy and I saw everything that my dad was doing and it was real, and everything I had been noticing since childhood and been hearing from my mom, I had full on seen it like as an adult at that point. You know, but the thing is, it's still difficult to disentangle, and I'm 32, and finally I've managed to like kind of maneuver, but also basically because my dad was wanting this anyway, to kind of like get like a lump sum of money and then now completely black out and pull away, so that I can't be controlled by my dad anymore, and I have some psychological independence at least, and try to get my life back on track. But if you now I'm 32 years old, so if you go through the suffering throughout your tens and your teens and your 20s, and then the first 2 years of your 30s, like that's at least like for a lot of like with a long life expectancy, that's already 1/3 of your life. And with the short life expectancy, that's half of your life. Half of your life is gone, and this is the half of your life that you're developing, right? But other than the psychological impact, there's also health impact, right? There's health impact. Like my father would do this thing where like everyone who I went to like college with and university with and high school with, their parents, like a gym membership really isn't like a thing. But my whole life, what my father has done, he's like, every time I get a gym membership, say on a credit card he's given me or something like that, he'll immediately, that's like I'll have had that credit card for 3 months or 3 years. But the moment I go get a gym membership on it and I actually start working out, for some mysterious reason, payments won't get made. He'll cancel the credit card within 5 or 6 months, that type of thing. So it's like he doesn't want me to be healthy, even, not really. So, or he has, maybe that, or maybe it's like he's jealous, or he doesn't want to pay for the gym membership, but he doesn't want to talk about it. I don't know what it is, but repeatedly, every time I've started working out at a gym, consistently throughout my life, my father's ended up canceling the credit card or the gym membership, or something has happened where I can't continue, right? So on the macro scale, every single type of plan I've ever made, depending on my dad or relying on my dad, hasn't worked out because he sabotages it in that way. But in terms of health, um, what happens is a self-sabotaging behavior when you get gaslit a lot and you're not getting to live up to your potential, and you're not getting to become who you are in and of yourself, and who you know yourself to be, and who you know yourself capable to be. Like when that happens repeatedly and you get really frustrated, especially if this is 30 years of that, self-destructive behavior is kind of natural. Like self-destructive behavior in a way becomes natural, not when you're super young, but definitely as you start getting older. It's very difficult not to engage in self destructive behavior or self-sabotaging behavior, or the very least like self-numbing behavior. So then it becomes an element like that that narcissistic parent very early in your life has created this cascade of consequences that's going to get worse and worse. And so, if by your early 30s you have some major health problems going on, and this can happen, like doctors will clearly tell, like Dr. Ramani or people who are experts in sociopathy will clearly tell you that people who are in sociopathic relationships or like they have a sociopathic parent will often develop like severe health problems really young, or when other people wouldn't under those conditions, because it's so intense and you're so stressed over years, and there's so many compounding factors that occur, right? So if by 32 you already have weak kidneys and you have some kind of like cognitive memory thing where it's difficult to recall, or you have like some other like stuff going on, you have some type of heart issue, or you have some sort of liver issue or whatever, that's only going to get worse. So by the age of 32, if you're already suffering health consequences due to the sociopathic infliction upon you by your parents, and in the UK they already have coercive control laws. I wish America would do stuff like that faster, because my father definitely needs to be in jail, or be sued for like $1 million, or at least $500,000, to make restitution and atonement for what he's done to my life. So like, if he's had consequences, if you've had those type of things happen to you, like that are affecting your health, well, that kind of determines the course of your life going forward. And if you've been aware of that pharaonic or unjust or sociopathic person, and you've been trying to disentangle your whole life and get away from them, and now they've kind of determined the course of your life to some degree, that's very difficult to accept. That's not something that's easy to accept. And in fact, I don't accept it. Like, I will get vengeance for that in some way, shape, or manner. Um, you know, I plan on it. Like, I want to get into, because at a certain point, if like what you were meant to be or created to be, or what your potential is to be, is decapacitated, like it's kind of cut off from you, it's rendered impossible in some fundamental way, then your desire kind of shifts. It becomes, instead of being positive and creative and constructive, you just want to destroy the thing that destroyed you you know and I kind of feel like that way. Like, if I had made my first 100,000 at 22, then I could have been a millionaire by like 28, and I could be a billionaire by my late 30s. But I'm in my early 30s, and I have no worldly construction to my name, because everything that I've tried to create, my father has sabotaged. Whatever it's been. So it creates this cascade of consequences that's really like, on a pragmatic with a pragmatic analysis, a material analysis, it's virtually impossible. I would say it is actually pragmatically and materially impossible to undo or transcend the consequences that a sociopath inflicts on your life. The cascade of consequences just builds on itself and gets so immense that you can't overcome it. You can't you can't overcome it. Now, as a religious person, I do believe in the aid of God, in the help of God, and these type of things. And so with that, that's a little bit different. But in a secular state, there should be definite laws controlling such behavior, categories in the legal system to identify such behavior, and once diagnosed and established through expert witnessing, such behavior should be punished. Even if it doesn't have a real victim, there's definitely a real victim here, but even if there's not a real victim, it should be punished. Just this behavior should not be permitted. Coercive, controlling behavior by sociopaths should not be permitted in society. It's basically it's satanic. It's Satanism. My father would never admit this, but his family are Satanist. They're Satanists. They act like they're Muslim, but they're not. They're Satanists. They worship Shaitan. They worship Satan. That's what worshippers of Satan look like. That's how they behave. That's how they act. That's what they do. Is what sociopaths and narcissists do. They're arrogant, and they inflict suffering, and they do injustice for their own self-interest, and they lie for their own self-interest, and they deceive and control for their own self-interest. That's what Satanism is. That's what the real Satanism is. poor Satanists who are just playing their kind of sarcastic game of ritual, poor them, because the real Satanists are the sociopaths of the world. So I wanted to talk about that idea of sociopathic parents and the cascade of consequences. And I'll talk to you soon. Assalamu alaikum wa rahmatullahi wa barakatuh.